why are you quitting? You're 61. There is, from what I understand from conversations with you, no formal age of retirement right now in Vodafone SR. It's been only a year and a half or two since Vodafone took over formal management of this company. And the telecom industry is going through one of its toughest phases right now. You're working in the backdrop of an economic slowdown that still isn't hurting the telecom business that much, but will eventually if it continues to be as deep. There are so many new players that have been signed on last year. So there's that much more competition that you're going to have to deal with in the next couple of years. There is the tax dispute that Vodafone is fighting. But anyways, that's an organizational battle. But nonetheless, that's there. Spectrum wars that are going on. A 3G auction delay. I mean, gosh, it's a long list of problems that the telecom industry, or challenges, let me put it that way, is going to face over the next 2 years. Why are you quitting now when Vodafone will need its most experienced man at the helm?
Vedika, you're a very clever interviewer, and I kind of resent the use of the word quitting. It is a retirement. It's not quitting.
Okay, you're retiring. Sorry. Okay. Let me correct that on the record. You're retiring and not quitting, and you stay on as director on board, even though it's non-executive.
If you put yourself back 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 8 years, it would have been no different at any point in time. There is never a right time to move on because the positive spin of it, there's been so much excitement. The negative spin of there's so much burnout. There's never a right time. And it's not going to stop in the next little while. Because there's a long way this industry has to grow. There'll always be issues to resolve. It's not going to be steady state for a while. I think the simple question I have of you is, why not earlier? You have to ask yourself, why not earlier? And if you
why didn't you resign earlier?
Exactly.
Or retire earlier, rather?
And if you look at when I came in, 1998, pre-NTP 99, there is not a single continuously serving hands-on chief executive who was there then, who's still there today.
So you're saying you wanted to retire a couple of years ago, but you stayed on to make sure the deal had some continuity?
I have told my colleagues this and my shareholders this so many times that, guys, I am ready to go. I've got a life beyond this.
When were you ready to go?
I think I could have been ready. I think I'd laid a big chunk of the foundations 5 years ago.
You were ready to go 5 years ago?
Absolutely. I mean,
so what's kept you on that doesn't exist anymore?
A sense of getting things, I mean, to a certain stage where there was a measure of predictability, a measure of the basics having been done. And if you look at the milestones in the last year or so, point number 1, I completed 10 years. Point number 2, 2 weeks ago, we completed the national rollout, which has completed the last circle, which is J&K. Point number 3, it was 2 years since the Vodafone acquisition of the Hutchison's shares. So, Hutchison SR became Vodafone SR. So at least, the ship's kind of through the canal. So I think there's a certain sense of, okay, this is about as sensible a time as any in the last several years.
Okay. There are 2 reasons when I was thinking of why you may have chosen to retire and not quit, that I could describe or I could think of. One is, and I'm asking you a question, I'm not making an assumption. From what I understand, of the last 10 years of Hutchison SR and now Vodafone SR, Hutchison was a far more entrepreneurial mode of doing business. Vodafone is a large, well-established, the largest in the world, well-established MNC culture when it comes to telecom. There are 2 different styles of operating. Asim Ghosh, though may have been designated as, in a managerial format, from what I understand from all your peers, always ran this business very entrepreneurially. Did you feel, or do you feel at any point in time, that the difference in cultures is not something that you wanted to continue with? It was time for a new challenge, and therefore you thought this was a good time, having brought the business to where it is and all these milestones. This was a good time to now look for the next big challenge in your life.
No, I think there's something in what you say, except it's not in Hutchison and Vodafone. Okay, it's more to do with the stage of the business. So I think different stages require different skills, require different management styles. And whether it were Hutchison or whether it is Vodafone, that change would have had to take place. Now, please understand this. Hutchison actually runs some very large businesses and has done some very seed capital business, which it has a terrific track record ability to large levels. Likewise, as does Vodafone. Okay, I mean, Vodafone is actually got a terrific track record you know this. Vodafone is the biggest player in Africa. It owns a controlling interest in a joint venture called Vodacom, which is with Telecom South Africa and Vodafone, which has operations all over Africa. Vodafone is in Eastern Europe. Vodafone's in the Far East.
I'm not saying
so all I'm saying is Vodafone actually does very entrepreneurial things and has always done so. Hutchison does entrepreneurial things, has always done so. Hutchison runs big, stable state businesses like the world's largest sport operator,
right,
and as does Vodafone. So each of these companies has a wide bandwidth. So it has got nothing to do with the switch from...
But the stage in business is what determines
I think
how
different stages require different skill sets. And, I spent the first 10 years of my life at Procter & Gamble, which is as steady state as it come. But I had very unsteady state businesses within Procter & Gamble, and I was very turned on that. I had just very unusual assignments for the first 10 years. And as assignments got more predictable, I found that boring. And since that time, I've done unpredictable things, going from small companies to big companies back to small companies. When I came back to India, I was actually running, a 5,000-man operation in the Far East with a group of 13 business units. And people said, you're mad to go and run this one-city show here. But it was actually much more exciting to be doing this than that. So it's more to do with that.
So the entrepreneurial phase of the business, as in most businesses, has run out to some extent.
It has to switch gears.
Sure.
It has to switch gears.
As you become a larger business.
It hasn't quite run out, but it'll start to switch gears.
Yeah, and most businesses go through that.
Quite so.
Okay. The other could be, the other reason why I thought could be was, and I asked Kumar Mangalam Birla this, and I know Idea is far behind in the stakes than Vodafone, but, I asked him if he thought that the best years of telecom were over, and when I said the best years, I meant 30 to 40% year-on-year kind of growth, and he said, yes, he did think that they were over. Do you think the best years in telecom are over?
Well, 30 to 40%
Indian telecom,
is spectacular growth, but, you've got to remember it's the law of big numbers. As the bases get bigger,
yes,
obviously percentages look smaller, but the absolute growth we are getting are actually pretty well comparable to what we're getting, and I believe there's a significant amount of growth ahead of us. Okay, I have, again, this is off the record. I'm not forward-looking statements because I'm part of a large listed company, etc. But I have no reason to believe that India will not reach a penetration level of, pick a figure, 60 to 70% in telecom. Okay, so there's a substantial amount of growth ahead of us still. Okay, and if anything, my reason for leaving is not because the growth has run out, but because I felt...
Oh, not that the growth has run out. The best years are over. But those are two different extremes. I'm not saying the growth has run out.
I think there's different challenges at every different time. And there are enough challenges for a new guy coming in now to fix and to put his imprint in the business. But at the same time, there's enough wind in the sails of this business that you don't have to make changes in a hurry, in a panic. So that, you have time to cogitate and take a view as to setting a new
It may not
course.
be the reason why you decided to retire, but do you think, that some of the best years of telecom are over?
I believe there's material growth ahead still. Obviously, in percentage terms, that growth will be lower than what we've seen before, simply because the bases are larger. But nonetheless, there's material growth ahead. And we will grow faster than the GDP, and we will go faster, therefore, by implication, by other sectors of industry.